What's going on, everybody? It's that time again. The AllSooners Podcast, episode 163 on this final day of November, November 30th, 2022. Josh Callaway in Oklahoma City, Ryan Chapman and more, John Hoover in Tulsa. Gentlemen, how are we doing? The regular season is behind us. How does it feel?
Feels good to have that season behind us. I did some thinking on this the last 3 years that I've been doing this with AllSooners. 2020 was COVID. 2021, Lincoln bailed. 2022, Brent's first year. It has been an absolute, it's like a grind, but at the same time, like a flash. Like 2020 feels like it was about 6 months ago.
So
sometimes.
different.
Yeah. It's been bizarre. It's been weird. And now last year about this time, we were in the dredges of a coaching search. So it was almost more tiring than if Oklahoma had been playing in a Big 12 championship game and we had just been on, tack on extra week. Now it's been weird of just, we're waiting on the transfer portal. We're waiting on all that stuff. But otherwise, I've cleaned my apartment more in the last 2 days than I have in the past 3 months. And I've just taken a lot of soccer. So it hasn't been all bad.
Yeah, this week has been way more calm than this week last year, which was, as we documented, Lincoln leaves the day after the season finale. Bob Stoops has that press conference, the epic press conference on that Monday. And this was the insane week, leading right up to every single name being rumored and all the craziness we're tracking. Why is Brent Venables still recruiting for Clemson? We're doing all that stuff. This week is much slower than that week last year. And the transfer portal insanity hasn't really even hit yet. We've only had a couple. We'll dive into that, obviously, here in just a little bit. But yeah, relatively quiet on in Norman, Oklahoma so far this week. But that'll change soon in due time, I'm sure, as changes are made. So far, nothing changed on the coaching staff, anything like that. But that's probably all coming in due time. So we'll dive into a lot of that stuff here coming up in just a little bit. We'll start as we always do for the final time here, which is put the finishing touches on the last game we saw. Oklahoma, Texas Tech on Saturday night in Lubbock. It was unpleasant. It was very cold, and it was ugly. We had Wi-Fi issues. We didn't sleep coming back at all, but we survived it, and it's in the rearview mirror now. Now that we've had a few days to digest it, Texas Tech game, how do we feel? We got to watch the field goal back. How do we feel about what happened in Lubbock on Saturday?
We didn't have Wi-Fi at the stadium. We had really terrible Wi-Fi. We had really terrible. So we couldn't upload our usual videos and just kind of just poor content. Sunday, the day after the game, was the biggest day we've had traffic-wise of the football season. So we don't need Wi-Fi, apparently. This is a new revelation to me. What the hell is that? We're trying to get as much stuff out as fast as we can, and everybody's like, "No, it's cool. You guys can take the night off.
I guess we'll save it. We'll save more stuff.
We'll read your stuff in the morning. Yeah, we'll watch those videos in the morning." It's pretty funny, but yeah, just thinking back on that game, Dylan Gabriel was the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Week, Big 12 Newcomer of the Week. You got Marvin Mims going over 1,000 yards receiving with 162, which was 161, I think, which was one off his career high. And then you got Eric Gray going for 160 yards as well, which is second, I think, for his career at Oklahoma. He went over 1,300 yards. He had enough. And they lost. And they only had 3 3-and-outs on offense, and they lost. It's just a remarkable step back by the defense overall when you think about where they were against West Virginia, where they were against Oklahoma State. They go up against Texas Tech, which we knew was a better offense than either of those two teams, probably both of those teams combined. And Texas Tech got a little confidence midway through the first quarter, was it? And just kind of started lighting them up after that.
Yeah, it was just still looking back, it's so weird how the offense scored with Texas Tech in the third and fourth quarter. They scored with them when they were under pressure of the really bad drive to start, and then they were behind the whole way until the CJ Cold interception. They cashed that in. And to still feel like, okay, an offense put 48 points on the board, and while that doesn't excuse the defense, need to find a way to get stops, still feels like they left something on the table as far as just being unable to that last 6.5 minutes, I think, of the first half, how that was managed is going to probably haunt Jeff Levy for a little bit as you think back to just the inability to use up enough time for Texas Tech to not roar all the way back and cut that thing back to 1 point. So
Yeah.
I know we kind of said this after the game, but what happened in that game is what would have happened against Oklahoma State had Oklahoma State had half of their hurt players available on offense, or had Spencer Sanders been 100%, because it felt pretty much the exact same. It just happened all at once at the end of the second quarter there for the Red Raiders, and that set the table for a pretty fun back and forth, just weird old school Big 12 shootout in the second half.
Yeah, I said first quarter. I meant second quarter. The second quarter went Oklahoma 3-and-out punt, and then 1 play touchdown, 77 yards, and then a 3 interception, and then a 3-and-out punt. Meanwhile, Texas Tech was coming to life. 11 plays, 75-yard touchdown, 10 plays, 75-yard touchdown, 4 plays, 29-yard field goal touchdown, and then a 8-play, 77-yard field goal at the end of the half. Like, they were dead. And then all of a sudden they were Usain Bolt. They're unstoppable. Like, what happened? So, shout out OU defense for not being able to put the clamps on anybody. But you're right, Ryan. Complimentary football didn't happen again.
Yeah, that second quarter is what got them beat. And look, as we peel away from it, it gets more and more egregious. I mean, it was 24-6 on that Mims touchdown with 6:25 to play until halftime. And it went into the locker room at 24-23. That's insane. I mean, that you have to be able to use more clock to where the other team doesn't even get the opportunity to have 3 scoring drives. When you have the ball with, that much time left in the half, it just can't happen. That little things like that happened all year, and Oklahoma was terrible in close games all year. All the 1-score games, they lost them all season long. So stuff like that is why. Not being able to manage clock correctly, not having good feel for situational, how you need to approach things. It happened all season, and shouldn't really have been a surprise. It happened again in the 12th game since what we saw the whole year, but it continues to kind of amaze you every single time. So we recapped the season, obviously, somewhat in the post-game show in the car. We have a chance to do it again a little bit now, kind of put the finishing bow on it. For me, it's just Oklahoma was not any good. I mean, it's just that simple. The roster's not great. Brent Venables didn't have a great first year. There's a lot of room for them to get better next year, and there's reason to think they will. But I guess, how do you guys, now that we've had a few days, the season has been over for a few days, anything that's changed in how you feel how this season went? Because it was 6-6. I mean, that shouldn't have happened.
No, Bill Parcells, the great philosopher, once said, "You are what your record says you are." This team's a 6-6 team. Marvin Mims was asked, "Does this feel like a 6-6 team?" He said, "Absolutely not. We're not a 6-6 team." I kind of wanted to jump in and say, Marvin, you lost 6 times and you only won 6 times. You're a 6-6 team. There's reasons for that. Lots of reasons, lots and lots of reasons, going all the way back to Lincoln Riley leaving, taking all the talent with him to USC. Bunch of guys saying, screw this, I'm opting out. I'm opting out of the bowl game. I'm opting out of my senior year. I'm going to the NFL. You lost all that talent last year. Think about those guys and the number of players that you lost. Spencer Rattler's tearing it up, relatively speaking, lately at South Carolina. Slow season, bad season for him, and he finishes by beating Clemson and, the season finale last week. Caleb Williams is going to win the Heisman. Lincoln Riley has USC, who was 4-8 last year, in the playoff if they beat Utah on Friday night. In the playoff. It's unbelievable if they win the Big 12 or if they win the Pac-12. There's players all over the country right now who are looking at Oklahoma going, man, I'm glad I didn't go there. They're having a tough season. There's a reason for that, and that's because they needed more talent on this roster. They could have used those players that picked other schools. They could have used some of those guys this year to not go 6-6.
Yeah, you've obviously got that, but the other side of it, when Brent Venables was hired, we've referenced this story a lot, right? The defensive turnaround. I think everyone knew the second that Caleb Williams hit the portal that Oklahoma was going to have a big downgrade at quarterback, regardless of who they brought in. And so that meant that you're going to have to play both sides of the football a lot better, because you're not going to have Caleb Williams, Spencer Rattler in 2020, Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield to bail you out if you stink. And what we kept talking about was Brent Venables, year one at Clemson. They were about the 80s in total defense. Year one, they got marginally better. Year two, they took a jump into the top 25. And then the rest of his time, all of his defense is ranked in the top 10 in total defense. This year at Oklahoma, they finished 120th in total defense, which is well below the 60th they finished last year. So when you lose basically your three key pieces on the defensive line to the NFL draft, and a linebacker and Brian Asamoah to the NFL draft, and a safety to the NFL draft, and then you haven't recruited a defensive line that's supposed to play the way that Brent Venables had when you've got that speedy coming in behind. I think everyone should have looked at that probably and said, instead of keeping that and it being a push defensively, that maybe they should have looked back. And obviously with hindsight, we see taking a huge step back. So that'll be the process coming again, as I know that everyone wants portal. There's not a ton of like defensive linemen that are out there that are really huge difference makers in the portal. Those guys usually stay put or go to the NFL if you're a difference maker along the defensive line. So it's going to be whoever's left, plus a lot of young guys, which they were hesitant to play next year. So it'll be really interesting to see if merely those guys being in year two helps out, or if it's going to be another year of absent defensive line play because they're undersized, young, and the OU defense will struggle again as a result.
Yeah, Ryan, let me ask you this. What's a bigger loss, Caleb Williams and Spencer Rattler, or those three defensive linemen, one linebacker, and two safeties that moved on in their careers? That's an easy one for me. Dillon Gabriel's the MVP of this team for not missing more than just the Texas game.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at what happened there, it's what kind of program you want, right? Because if you had kept Caleb Williams, a lot of the problems would still be there. You'd probably feel more optimistic that the defense is going to get there eventually under Brent Venables. Or do you just want to say, look, you need to have this year to rip off the Band-Aid so that the defense matters again, right? That you have to have two sides of the football working together toward winning a football game. And that boils back into the complementary football conversation that everyone's tired of having all year long, because these two sides of the football, even when they were playing well, it never felt like they could play well together for an extended stretch.
Yeah, it continues to amaze me to just how much people try to assign like one thing for why the team was what it was this year. It's a lot of things. Every area needs to improve, and that doesn't necessarily mean you have to change everything, but the players in the spots have to get better. The coaches have to be better. I mean, people like to do this thing, we talked about it in the car coming back, where they just look at the stats and they look what Dillon Gabriel threw for on Saturday, and they just say, oh, he's not the problem. And it's like, be able to process what you watched a little bit. If you watch the season, I mean, like I said earlier, they lost every one-score game they played. Quarterback is a big difference in one-score games. Go get you a score late, put games away, step on a team's neck. That was something that Dillon Gabriel in this offense could never do this season. So while the numbers were pretty good, and Dillon Gabriel had a decent season statistically, his season statistically is not that far off of Caleb Williams in a lot of categories. Yeah. But watch what Caleb Williams does in the big moments and when they need it all season long, and you'll see the difference. It's more than just the numbers on the paper.
Josh, my feedback here shows you're offline, and I'm not getting any levels on you. You see that too, Ryan?
No, I see a green light and still levels coming through for Josh.
Okay, let's keep rolling. You want to finish that thought, or
I was done? Yeah.
Yep. Okay. I can jump in. Well, the easiest thing, Oklahoma struggled in fourth downs a ton, third down, fourth down, short yardage. Dillon Gabriel was not running up to Kennedy Brooks and ripping the ball out and surging forward for 2 yards to get a first down in Lawrence to help keep the Jayhawks at bay. It's just little things like that. That's what a elite quarterback can paper over, and it's going to be a new era at Oklahoma where if Jackson Arnold hits here in a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever, then you're right back to that where a guy like that, a five-star quarterback, can paper it over. But in the interim, in the meantime, you've either got Dillon Gabriel coming back, you've got, if Jackson Arnold takes over, you've got a true freshman, under the gun, all that stuff, with a defense that isn't going to give that guy the chance to make those mistakes and kind of grow while still winning football games if it doesn't improve. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of pressure that heaps on, if that can change the mindset of the defense, because for so long it's been the one thing goes bad, everything goes bad, but don't worry, We just have to hold the offense to 50 points, and we might have a chance to win this game.
Yeah, the whole thing of elite quarterback, I think we've learned over the years that an elite quarterback can, one, win a Heisman, and two, win the Big 12 championship. Can an elite quarterback win the national championship? No, that hasn't happened. Yes, they can, but they need 5-star defensive linemen and 5-star offensive linemen and 5-star receivers and 5-star running backs all around them and 5-star linebackers and DNs and all. That's what Oklahoma hasn't been able to get in their recruiting classes. They've won a lot of games at a very high rate and a lot of entertaining, high-scoring offensive football with those quarterbacks. They need to recruit, and obviously, I'm not saying anything new here. They need to get some defensive linemen in here, whether it's through the portal, whether it's junior college, whether it's from Johnny 5-star, still trying to flip David Hicks at this stage, right, from Texas A&M. You got to get those guys that are going to allow you to make mistakes at quarterback, allow you to have average play from time to time at quarterback. You don't have to be the superhero that Baker and Kyler and Jalen and all those guys have been over the years.
Yeah, no, 100%. And, to kind of put the finishing touches on the Dillon Gabriel conversation, as far as I don't think he's the sole problem. Like I said earlier, there's no one sole problem. No. It's not on any one person. But
holistic.
The people who try to do the thing of Dillon Gabriel's not a problem thing. How many more games does this team win if they just literally convince Caleb Williams to stay? Same roster, but it's Caleb Williams. I think several more. I think they win 8 or 9, maybe more games than that.
I think they're 10-2 minimum, assuming that he gets hurt the same way that Dillon got hurt and misses the same amount of games. I think they win every one of those close games. They go 10-2.
Yeah, and again, this boils back down to the big problem I have with this offense is not the production or the points or anything like that. It's just how boom or bust it is. It feels like they're either hitting home runs or it's an 80-second 3-and-out, as opposed to just – there are no moments where, like in the fourth quarter against Oklahoma State, if the first time they had got the ball, they picked up 2 first downs and still had to punt, but were able to run some time off and give the defense a breather. That dynamic feels a whole lot different than the rapid fire. We're trying to punt the ball back to the opponent as fast as possible because all we do is tempo. And that is just a quarterback that's not the elite of the elite. That's a really, really young offensive coordinator who still has a ton of time to realize this is my ideal version of the offense, but when it gets down to the nuts and bolts of what you have to do to comfortably win a football game, sometimes you have to come off that a little bit. Things like that. And can that all be fixed? Yeah, but that's going to take some growth from the coaching staff and then some development and talent development this offseason.
100%. Going to be interesting to see how that's all approached this offseason, and how much they work in new guys. Obviously, the quarterback spot's going to be one that's going to be very interesting this winter and into next spring and summer, of course. So to wrap up this first segment, obviously, by the time we do the show again next Wednesday, we will know what Oklahoma's doing in the bowls. So let's lock it in. Where do we think Oklahoma winds up in the bowls? Most of the projections have pretty much 3 possibilities: Guaranteed Rate Bowl in Phoenix, Liberty Bowl in Memphis, Texas Bowl in Houston. That's pretty much been what we've seen. I don't think I've seen any projection that has anything other than those 3 at this point, in the season here with Championship Saturday, all that's left. So where do we think Oklahoma winds up whenever Sunday's bowls are finally announced?
Yeah, the projections we've seen and the projections that we have on the website right now don't include the Liberty Bowl, which we've talked about at length, which I don't really know why the Liberty Bowl is being jumped over. Yeah. It's either the 3 spot, the 4 spot, or the 6 spot, or 7 or 8 spot, whatever the guaranteed rate is. So, where are we going to be spending our holidays? We're going to be having Christmas in Phoenix on the 25th. Are we actually going to be in Phoenix on the 25th? By the way, I looked ahead at last year's media schedule, kind of overlaid it onto this year's calendar. Games on Tuesday, media day on Sunday. Sunday's actually Christmas. What? So maybe they'll change that. Maybe they'll lay that out differently when we actually get there. But I don't want to be covering media day on Christmas, guys. So at that rate, I'm pulling for the Houston Bowl. I saw Oklahoma State projected to the Frisco Bowl on December 17th.
Oh my!
Can we go to the Frisco Bowl
December
on December 17th? Have it out of the way by the time Christmas gets here? That'd be great.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah, get it all done and dusted. I just think that, again, we've talked about this a ton, that the bowls are not married in the Big 12 to number 1 team goes here, number 2 team goes here, number 3 team goes here. They get to pick. And while they work with the Big 12 and all that stuff, the bowls are about what gets the bowls money. And I think that the Liberty Bowl and the Texas Bowl, both being Big 12 SEC tie-ins, I think that both of those bowl games would really want to be able to grab Oklahoma and promote it's the future conference matchup, all this stuff, because that just makes it easier, especially when, like, the Texas Bowl, I haven't checked with the Liberty Bowl, but I know the Texas Bowl is one of the ones that's owned and operated by ESPN. So for them, that's a very easy sell of you grab Oklahoma, and whether it's Arkansas or someone like that, I think South Carolina's probably played their way out of the Texas Bowl, but like Oklahoma and Arkansas, you're telling me ESPN's not going to be juiced to sell that thing, even though the records aren't pretty. It's a regional, it's SEC, future SEC, all that stuff. So I think that that's probably one of the 2 likeliest landing spots.
Kentucky too. Don't forget the Stoops angle. That could that could provide storylines for ESPN for 3 or 4 days.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I agree with Ryan. I mean, the way I kind of picture, I feel like really there's only 3 possibilities. The ones I said: Guaranteed Rate, Liberty, and the Texas Bowl. And for those 3 bowls, you're really kind of deciding between Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, and Baylor. If we're assuming that Texas goes to the Alamo Bowl, TCU makes the playoff, and Kansas State takes the sugar. And between those 3, it's a slam dunk that they would all want Oklahoma for their fan base and all the obvious reasons, blue blood, all that. And that if Oklahoma is just getting to decide, I would think they would take the Texas Bowl. I mean, Houston is obviously that there's a big alumni base in Houston. You recruit guys from that area. I mean, there's lots of reasons that I think they would want to play their bowl game down in Houston, as opposed to Memphis or especially. I can't picture them choosing to play in something called the Guaranteed Rate Bowl, even if it's the cushiest one for us in Arizona and the weather and all that stuff. It's just I have a hard time picturing it. So I think that if it's up to Oklahoma, which I would think it would be pretty much, they would take the Texas Bowl. But we'll see.
I don't think it's up to Oklahoma. It'll be up to the bowl to decide who they want to choose. So in that vein, it's going to be probably the Cheez-It Bowl, picking Oklahoma, getting
that's
them
the
back.
wild card.
The Cheez-It Bowl, because they pick right after the Alamo, and they look at the standings and go, yeah, Oklahoma stunk this year, but it's Oklahoma. Of course we want them. Big 12 might step in and say, no, can I show you Oklahoma State's resume? Can I show you Baylor's resume? And they're going to look at the brand and say, no, bro, we want Oklahoma. So that's something that's probably going to happen. For Oklahoma, the best case scenario, you're 100% right, would be absolutely unequivocally Houston, because you can actually touch base with recruits in Houston, invite them to your practice. They get to come out and see what it's all about a little bit. That'd be cool. Plus, you get that. Is it, Ryan? You said that's an SEC matchup, the Texas Bowl.
It is, yeah.
So there's a handful of schools that you'd want to match them up against, and they'd all be attractive if you're ESPN. So yeah, Oklahoma gets another chance to play in Texas. Sure, Phoenix is tricky because Phoenix is probably, in terms of the pecking order, is where they belong, but that bowl. By the time they pick, Oklahoma may be long gone. So doubtful. I really still think it's doubtful that we're going to go to Phoenix as a media group covering the Sooners.
Yeah, it is interesting because when you look at basically, regardless of what happens this weekend, if TCU wins, they're going to the playoff. K-State's going to the Sugar Bowl. If TCU loses, they're going to be an at-large in the New Year's Six in K-State goes to the Sugar Bowl. So congrats there. Texas probably locked into the Alamo Bowl with how they finished the year. So you look at everything else. So for you, the Cheez-It Bowl, Oklahoma's the brand. The fan base is like, screw this team. The way that Baylor performed this year is an underperformance, a step down, a disappointment from winning the Big 12 last year. Oklahoma State's banged up, battered, bruised, injured. The fan base is pretty meh on that. Texas Tech might be the happiest lot of the bunch to spend some money and head out to Orlando. So there's going to be some interesting calculation done as far as how much of the stadium needs to be full for the bowl to make the money they want to make versus selling a matchup on TV that might not draw fans, because I don't know how many Oklahoma fans are juiced to travel to Orlando to watch this team play another game.
Yeah, that's a good point too. That Texas Tech might be the prime property there. Oklahoma State consider that their quarterback has been banged up. Their quarterback is probably going to make a decision soon on whether he's going to opt out of the
Right.
bowl and start training. You know what I mean? The bowl is sitting there waiting for Spencer Sanders to make an announcement of some kind. If he opts out, then the Oklahoma State becomes significantly less attractive. So yeah, unless Gunnar Gundy is the man, right? Rolls out there and is the head coach's son is the starting quarterback. That's always interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of moving pieces, and we'll find out on Sunday afternoon. I feel like last year going into it, we really knew it was the Alamo Bowl. We kind of pieced it together like that's what they're going to be. So we kind of already were mentally in San Antonio. We can't really do that. We're kind of waiting and seeing. I expect Houston, but we could see there's a few possibilities, and we'll see how it shakes out. So we'll find out Sunday afternoon. Keep up with All Sooners on Twitter and obviously the website allsooners.com. Whenever that's announced, I think it's like 2:00 ish on Sundays when they start rolling out all the bowls. We'll have it for you wherever Oklahoma is playing at the end of December, and we'll haul over wherever it is, and we'll watch this team play one more time because they're just so much fun to watch play football. All right, take a timeout, and we'll come back. We're going to get into the transactional phase of the show as guys coming and going in the portal. Oklahoma did get a commit we haven't talked about yet, so we'll dive into all of that next on the All Sooners podcast. On Twitter, you can follow All Sooners at all_Sooners. Ryan is at _Ryan Chapman. Who's at John E. Hoover? I'm at Josh M. Callaway. Our website is allsooners.com. We are a Fan Nation affiliate, part of the Sports Illustrated Network. All right, everybody's favorite thing to talk about, transfer portal. It's go time. We honestly thought we'd have a lot more movement by now. At least I did by Wednesday this week. We were thinking that Sunday after the Tech game was going to be just insane. It's really been pretty quiet so far, but there has been a couple of guys. We'll start with the big one, the obvious one. Theo Weiss announced, redshirt junior, that he is going to hit the portal. It was reported earlier in the week, and then Theo confirmed it today, put out a statement just a little bit before we started recording, that he is going to hit the portal with 2 years of eligibility left. This year was somewhat underwhelming for Theo. I mean, he only had 19 catches. He did save his best for last. He went off on Saturday. It was his best game in an OU uniform against Texas Tech, going for over 100 yards at that bomb touchdown. But he hits the portal and thus officially closes the book on that 2019 recruiting class of Rattler, Stogner, Bridges, Weiss, and Hazelwood that just did not pan out at all like everybody thought they would. Weiss is in the portal, and he'll be looking for a new team.
So, yeah, it's kind of wild. He closes the chapter. That's closes the book. Is the story I was going to write this afternoon at All Sooners. Kind of a column on looking back on that 2019 class and those 3 5-star wide receivers and the 4-star tight end and the 5-star quarterback. It's just stunning how that fell apart.
Yeah.
Lincoln Riley recruited those guys. Not one of them is going to finish their career at Oklahoma unless can't believe I'm going to say this, unless Rattler and Stogner transfer back. Not one of them is going to finish their career at Oklahoma. Yeah, crazy. So it just goes to show recruiting rankings can be like foil. You know, they look cool and shiny and awesome, and then you pick them up and grab them, and there's nothing there. You just crinkle them up. That's what recruiting rankings can be. I know we all are in agreement that you need those 5 stars to win national championships. Lincoln Riley got 3 5 stars in one class, and look at this team now.
Yeah, and for Theo, this just made a ton of sense. If you just look at his involvement, 3 catches, 2 catches. That was his non-conference run against UTEP, Kent State, Nebraska. 3 grabs against K-State. Then he didn't pop up again until Kansas. 4 catches against Kansas. Then the whole rest of the way, he had 4 combined catches after that matchup with the Jayhawks, and 3 of those and all of his yards after the Kansas game came last Saturday in Lubbock. So it makes a ton of sense for him, not the comeback season that he had envisioned when he told us in the spring that he was an 11 out of 10, ready to rock and roll. And it never looked like he was hampered or anything, but when you go back to kind of the Texas game and how none of the receivers were really part of that game plan, never really seemed to bounce back in and get back into the rotation. And so that one made sense. And it's kind of like we talked on Saturday night in the car, that there were a couple of guys. Theo had a big game, but a guy like LV Bunkley Shelton, who was a transfer and he randomly gets a couple of targets, things like that. Some of how the targets got distributed in Lubbock were kind of odd considering what the back half of the season had looked like for this team, which was purely Farouk, Mims, Gray, Willis.
Yeah.
I'll add real quick that I think in that class, I think we all looked at Jaden Hazelwood as probably the highest rated prospect and the guy who has the most potential and all that. Well, look at the year that he had this year with Arkansas. 59 catches, career high, 702 yards, career high. He did pretty good. So he's going off to the NFL, 3 touchdowns, but he caught that in one game last year, if I remember correctly, at Oklahoma.
He did.
But he's going off to the NFL. Yeah, that class, a little bit star-crossed for sure.
100%. It did not pan out. I mean, that was the class that was supposed to bring Oklahoma a national title, potentially. I mean, that was, how are you going to stop this? And it just never materialized at all. Really amazing. It just goes to show you nothing's a given. I mean, we already knew that, but nothing's a given. And just real quick, too, to finish on Theo Weiss, here's how much Oklahoma fans should be upset or have any beef with Theo Weiss. 0. That guy missed all of last season, basically, essentially, with injury, hit the portal, and decided to come back with Brent Venables, completely different, all that. His receiver coach got let go right before the season, and the guy never was in trouble, never said anything. I mean, he kept trying. It didn't work out, but OU fans should have no beef with the way things went down with Theo Weiss. He tried to make it work at Oklahoma, and it just didn't. And can you blame him for wanting to try something else? I mean, 19 catches this year. I'm not sure the target number, but it couldn't have been very high.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, he's looking for a new spot. I don't know why there would be any qualms with that for OU fans on this one.
And these receivers, I wrote this story yesterday. We're doing a series called Oklahoma's Finest. Marvin Mims is putting up these numbers. He's having his best season of his career, right, as a junior, with Dillon Gabriel as his quarterback. It just happens to be his 3rd quarterback in 3 years. These receivers are going through some things. They've got a new receivers coach. They've been through some changes. So, yeah, you're looking for consistency, and this receiver group, which we thought at the start of the season was probably the best group on the team, has really underachieved overall.
Yeah, and Josh, I think your point about fan reaction, I haven't seen any negative fan reaction to Theo Weiss, so this isn't like a stop that. Like that's not what we've seen at all. But for everyone that stuck around, gave it a go this year, and we'll hit the portal. We're going to talk about another one of those guys next. We expect many more of those. I think that's kind of the process that Bob Stoops had asked for in that press conference, and Brent Venables had kind of asked for, that you come in, give it a go for a year, and then if it doesn't fit, then it's not what you signed up for. You tried to make it work, and that at that point, that's where you kind of make that personal decision for yourself. I think that a lot of people can kind of respect any of those guys for toughing it out for a year, and then at the end of the year saying, hey, for one reason or another, especially if you look like defensively, the scheme doesn't fit me. It's not what I was recruited to play in, all that stuff. I think that's something that you never want to see, that kind of attrition to the portal, but I think it's a lot more palatable than when people are jumping shift left, right, and center when a coach just leaves.
Yeah, and on that note, the other guy who hit the portal this week, defensive back Jordan Mukes, who's in his 2nd year at Oklahoma, Choctaw Kids. He's a local product. Hoover and I were texting, yesterday, or with the whole group, but just unbelievable that he never played this year. That didn't even strike me that he never saw the field this year. And it's crazy because I remember, and I should have went back and pulled the quote, but I remember last year, fall camp, leading up to the start of the season, Alex Grinch saying that Jordan Mukes was one of the furthest along freshmen on the team. He was asked, what are some freshmen who could have an impact right away? Jordan Mukes was one of the first names out of his mouth. That's a different regime, obviously, but that just kind of goes to show you that maybe he was just not a fit for what Brent Venables and this defense was trying to do this year. So Jordan Mukes, a guy who's exciting, he's hitting the portal, and same thing. I mean, stuck it out with a different regime, completely different defensive coaching staff. Didn't work out. Going to look for another spot.
Yeah, his high school coach told me when he was offered, or when he committed to OU, that he called him a creature. Jordan Mukes, he's
right.
Measured up at OU at 6'1", 207. His recruiting profile said he was 6'4". He was never 6'4". So the first time I saw him, I'm like, that dude's not 6'4". 6'1", 207 is a hell of a size for a defensive back, whether it's playing under Alex Grinch or Brent Venables or whoever. Sam on my radio show, Sam Mayes talks all the time about Alex Grinch's defense being super simple, right? You got guys that are confused by Mike Stoops' deal, and Ruffin McNeil tries to come in and smooth things out. It didn't work. Grinch comes in and says, forget all that. We're getting real simplified here. We're going to simplify this thing for all you guys to understand. And then he basically ran that for 3 years. Jordan Mukes fit in that because it was easy to come in as a freshman and say, you just want me to be here? Okay, cool. I can be here. Brent Venables' safeties have so much more responsibility in his defense, so much more complexities. And the only thing I can think, he didn't get on the field one time all year in an era when you can play 4 games and still redshirt. He didn't get on the field one time. I don't think there was an injury. We saw him warming up a couple of times. I think he's okay. The only thing I can think is he just never grasped the defense as it was presented to him, and he just wasn't able to crack that lineup. That and the fact that they went out and got some guys in the transfer portal and freshmen who came in and had a little bit better understanding of what their responsibilities were.
Yeah, I was going to say just that exact point, Hoover. It felt like with Trey Morrison coming in, with Billy Bowman moving to safety, Key Lawrence moving to safety or getting put back at safety, Justin Broyles having his COVID year, and then Robert Spears Jennings coming in and kind of just picking things up enough to get a little bit of playing time there. It felt like just the perfect storm of things to happen that the result was Mukes essentially got recruited over via portal and a little bit of position change, things like that. And so I'm sure he was hacking away on the scout team all year trying to get a spot and just didn't work out for him. And so another guy, like you said, that toughed it out for a year and just said, hey, I'm going to go somewhere else that maybe fits me a little bit better, which I don't know if anyone can really have any other feeling other than thanks for trying and good luck at your next stop.
Yeah, so we'll see where he winds up, and I assume there'll be probably a pretty good market for both of these guys, Mukes and Weiss. So we'll let you know whenever they announce where they're headed. You'll find out about it on AllSooners.com. So from negative to positive, Sooners did make an addition actually on Thanksgiving Day. Who's ready for that? Notre Dame defensive lineman Jacob Lacey announced he's transferring to Oklahoma. He didn't play very much this season. He played 4 games this year before he hit the portal. Decided to look for a new spot. He's played a lot of football at Notre Dame. He's got 37 career games under his belt over there with the Irish. He's a veteran. He's been around for a long time. He kind of is what he is. He's been decent, nothing groundbreaking. Like Ryan said, if you're a really good defensive lineman, you pretty much are either going pro or you're good where you are. But he's had, moments. And this year, before he, entered the portal, was one of his more productive. He only has 2.5 career sacks. 2 of them were this year before he decided to, call it on this season and the portal. He had 5 tackles this year, 35 career tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss. So again, not insane numbers, but he's a veteran. He's played a lot of football, and obviously Oklahoma need D tackles. I mean, they're going to run kind of thin after Jeffrey Johnson and Jalen Redmond presumably are not on this team anymore. You need bodies, and that's what Lacey provides here.
Yeah, so who is Jacob Lacey? He's a defensive tackle from Bowling Green, Kentucky, right?
Yeah.
Who is he really? He was offered by Clemson. That's who Jacob Lacey is. When Brent Venables was at Clemson, he offered him as a defensive tackle to come play for the Tigers. That's really all you need to know about him. He went and chose Notre Dame instead, played there, made a career of it, and now he's going to do it again for Brent Venables at Oklahoma. You hope he can come in and get an understanding quickly of what Brent Venables' defensive tackle is supposed to do. Ability-wise, I don't think there's any question he's there. He comes in with the experience and the kind of the trademark kind of pedigree, I guess, that you'd want in a recruit. 4-star guy, according to 24/7 Sports. He's a guy that is instantly, as soon as he gets on campus, if he continues to work like he has been, puts in the time, stays on the grind, all that good stuff, he'll be one of the best interior defensive linemen on the team.
Yeah, which is not a great sign. Not a great sign for where the defensive line is going to be next year, but it's either that or what this does, it buys you time with whoever you want to bring in of that defensive line class, anyone that you want to play on the interior. It gives you the time of, we don't have to throw you out there right now if we don't think you're ready. If we think you need a year to physically bulk up and get used to the wear and tear of college football, that's what that does. But as I alluded to earlier, this is the life you live trying to find impact defensive line talent in the transfer portal.
Exactly. So we'll see what kind of impact he is. No, I mean, certainly interesting timing to announce on Thanksgiving Day. I mean, season's not even over yet. You don't really get that ever. So he must be pretty good with his decision. And like who said, prior relationship with Brent Venables from his getting recruited to Clemson. And we'll see what kind of impact he have. You got to assume, though, he'll be in the rotation next year. I mean, that kind of almost goes without saying. One last addition here before we flip over to the last segment. Kendall Dolby, JUCO defensive back, cornerback, was added last week. This is a good get for Oklahoma. He's from Northeastern Oklahoma A&M, which is in Miami. So he's played his 2 years out there. Got really nice tape. I recommend you go watch it on AllSooners.com. He's forceful. He's physical, has good instincts, really flies around with the football. Does a good job of kind of anticipating plays and things of that nature. This feels like a guy who can be, an impact player right away for Oklahoma. And Kendall Dolby, and Hoover, you got to actually talk to him for a little bit on the phone, and a great story on AllSooners.com about his recruitment and all that good stuff.
Yeah, he really likes Oklahoma. He's not a big, huge guy. He's just right around 6 foot 5'11", 180 pounds. But when you watch him react to a football is thrown his way, or football is thrown outside of his catch radius, it's incredible the amount of time that takes him to go out and get a football, to make a diving catch, to make a tiptoe catch on the sideline. Balls that you think he's not going to have an opportunity to catch, he goes out and he catches them. He acts like a wide receiver, like, oh, that's my ball. DBs don't really do that very much, or at least the ones we've covered at Oklahoma don't really own the football like that outside of CJ Colden this year. Am I right? He said that when he came in for his visit for the Oklahoma State game, he loved it. He was blown away by it. He was blown away by the family atmosphere, the coaching staff, the other recruits that talked to him. But one of the key recruits, and this is the reason why this story became so popular at our website, one of the key recruits that talked to him was Jackson Arnold. Jackson Arnold was telling, here's this JUCO cornerback from a town he's probably never heard of, wants to go to Oklahoma, and he's looking around and he's saying, here's why. He said he didn't have an offer when Lincoln Riley was there, but he said, I fell in love with the program, fell in love with Brent Venables, fell in love with Jeff Lebby, the offensive coordinator. Obviously, talking two different sides of the ball, but man, when the quarterback, the 5-star quarterback, is the guy that's telling you need to be here, I think Kendall Dolby realized this is a great opportunity for me.
Yeah, and there'll be, you look at it, CJ Colden not going to be able to come back just because of eligibility, running out of that after redshirt, COVID year, all that stuff. Justin Broyles, same boat. Trey Morrison, same boat. So that's a bunch of spots there that we know for sure, and that's before you talk about Jordan Mukes, who we just talked about transferring, or anyone else that if a Woody Washington makes a call that maybe he wants to just try the NFL route. So, you know what I mean? That there could still be some more shakeup to come in the secondary. So regardless of tape or anything like that, it's a spot where Oklahoma's going to need bodies. And then you get really excited by the potential of if Jay Valai, Brandon Hall, Brent Venables, those guys, wherever he lands, can kind of harness that. And you see he'll have the spring, unlike CJ Colden, who that's why it took him so long to kind of get up to speed. If they can find a way to harness that, that could be something that Oklahoma fans could be excited by, because overall, outside of the coverage bust against TCU, it's not perfect by any means. It wasn't elite, great, anything. But I didn't think the secondary played better as the year went on, which you haven't seen that. I mean, how many years has it been since when you first saw an Oklahoma corner the first time they played? That was the best corner play you were ever going to get out of them, and it slowly deteriorated the rest of their career.
100%. So we'll see how Dolby can work himself into the fold. And like Ryan said, the fact that he actually will be here in the spring, that killed Colin. It's a shame because he came on late in the season. You feel like he could have been there from the start if he was there in the spring. So he'll have that working for him, and in the state, obviously, Miami over there at the JUCO level. So we'll see what he looks like whenever we get to see him in the spring. So we'll see how that goes here coming up. All right, we'll take one more break here. We'll come back. Oh, what's up?
Real quick, if you didn't see as well this morning, the Senior Bowl announced that Eric Gray has accepted an invite, which we all figure that Eric Gray will be pursuing the NFL at the end of this season. But That Senior Bowl it bills itself as the first step in the NFL draft process. Everyone remembers last year what Perron Winfrey did for his kind of draft stock early on in the process with the Senior Bowl. So nothing's been announced from Eric Gray about future plans or anything at 1:09 p.m. here on Wednesday when this has been recorded, but accepting that invite to the Senior Bowl, an indication that what we all figured is that Eric Gray will likely be headed to the NFL. It wouldn't make any sense for that to be announced if not. So we're waiting on an official announcement from Gray. And then as we kind of talked about, there was no indication either way when he was talking to us after the game, if he still wants to hang around for the bowl game, opt out, any of that stuff.
What are the odds, guys, that Eric Gray comes out and says, boy, this is amazing to be coached by real football coaches in the NFL? Like Perrion did last year.
I would say low.
Very low. Very
Eric
low.
Gray is, he's
that was
he's
the
a
most
little
dirt
reserved.
I've ever seen thrown on one coach by a former player in my life.
The Grinch that stole our season. Was he the one who tweeted that, or was it Isaiah Coe? One of the two tweeted that. I can't remember.
I think that was a TikTok, not even just a tweet. I think it was a TikTok that Winfrey put out there.
One of the two definitely tweeted it, but they might be referencing that TikTok. I don't know, but yeah, that was a fun time in all of our lives when the vibes were still high in Northern Oklahoma. Everyone was making fun of the previous regime. Now the previous regime is dancing in SoCal, about to go to the playoffs. So
hey, I don't have to transcribe Alex Grinch quotes anymore. That's one thing that my life is really starting to look up since I don't have to do that. That dude talks so fast and said so many different things in like 2 seconds. It was a nightmare to transcribe him.
Yeah, Grinch 1, and then Skip Johnson is 2 on the OU Mount Rushmore of Skip. He just will go this way, that way, and he gives you good stuff. But I never know how to, I always want to text Hoover and be like, I need you to double check that I did okay shaping this up for what we need it to be as far as punctuating things correctly. Because Skip and Alex Grinch both like to start new sentences in the middle of a sentence.
Yeah. We kind of divvy up the folks on the OU beat, divvy up the quote transcriptions to kind of speed it along for everybody. We all have the same thing. We're not really competing when it comes to transcribing quotes. Alex Grinch was always the booby prize. Alex Grinch was always the, who's got Grinch? And it was always Barry Trammell would either step up and say, I'll do it, or I did it last week, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
I think he did it in October and said, I'm done with Grinch for the rest of the year. So it was tough.
That he's the USC guy's problem now over at
that's right.
Is it All Trojans? I'm not sure.
That's right, All Trojans.
He's their problem now. And that defense, which has been not good, but gets a lot of takeaways. It's weird. Yep. And they might make the playoff. We'll talk about that a little bit in the next segment. Playoff is almost finalized. We haven't talked about it at all because we just haven't had a reason to. We'll look at it a little bit. Conference championship weekend coming up. And, of course, Sooners NFL and a little basketball talk on the way out to wrap things up next on the AllSooners Podcast. Final segment of the AllSooners Podcast. A few last things here will send you on your way. We don't have a weekend show. Obviously, that's essentially over now, other than the postgame show after the bowl game. So we'll be back next Wednesday, wrapping up where Oklahoma's headed for the bowl and all that good stuff. But we'll talk about that a little more later. We'll start with championship weekend and the playoff. So we haven't talked about this at all this year. Last year it was a fixture on the show, was to react to the playoff rankings and all that good stuff. Not a thing this time around because Oklahoma was never in that picture, so it's just never really a reason to. But we'll do it a little bit right now. So this weekend, what's the drama, I guess, for you guys? So the rankings right now, I'll give them real quick in case you don't know them. Georgia's number 1, Michigan 2, TCU 3, USC 4, Ohio State 5, Alabama 6. Those are really your 6 teams. There's really no other way for anybody else to get in. Those are the 6 teams that have a shot. What's the drama this weekend? Because there's an argument to be made, and I've seen it be made, that even if TCU loses, they should still make it. That even if USC loses, potentially that they should still make it because they're actually playing on championship weekend where these other teams are not. Do you want to penalize teams for playing on championship weekend, basically, is the question. So is there any drama for you guys this weekend? Are you good with the way the rankings are? I mean, what are you looking for?
So the data point is the data point, as Mike Tomlin might say when he was talking about talking about conversions. You get 12 data points, right, in the regular season, and then you get a 13th. what you do with that 13th is just as important as what you do with any of those other 12. If you win, great, you move on. You get the advantage of playing an extra game and winning it. If you lose, sorry. 12-1, is it better than 11-1? Well, did you win your conference? Aha. That's one of those things that if you go 12-1 and don't win your conference, they don't count you as a conference champion. All these things matter. It all adds up. What really matters the most, who the playoff committee wants in the playoff. Simple as that. Do they get good brand recognition with USC? Number 4, hell yes. Ohio State, just outside. Maybe we can try to get them in somewhere. You can't really screw over TCU that bad. Oh, we got Michigan. We got, Georgia. So they got their brand recognition. They're not worried about that. It's the 1 versus 4, no matter who 4 is going to be, is probably going to be not very competitive. And then 2 versus 3, you really don't have any idea. It could go either way. So they're going to get what they want, which is big secret here. This is how it works. They're going to get what they want, which is what they want. They want what they want, and they're going to get it because they are the playoff committee, and they don't have to reveal crap to us.
Yeah, I think it was College Football Reddit who put this out on Twitter that was like, Georgia, congrats, you're in the playoff. Michigan, congrats, you're in the playoff. TCU, don't get blown out. And USC, just got to win. And I completely agreed with that. Like, if TCU
100%.
loses a close game, I think that the committee showed a ton of respect for Kansas State. And so I think that because of that respect for Kansas State, unless TCU just absolutely gets mauled, which I don't see happening, I think that they're in. And so then it's, hey, USC, you've lost to Utah. Can you beat Utah? Right. And that was a really close game. That was a game that USC had a chance to come back late, couldn't get it done. And that was the hyper emotional program game there, as far as Utah honoring a couple of fallen teammates and having that paint on the helmets, things like that. The fact of the matter is, in one season, Lincoln Riley's really good at not losing to the same team twice. And so with everything to play for, I'm really excited. I think the Big 12 championship game is going to be a really good game. I don't know if the stakes are massive, other than, like we said, don't get blown out. But I'm excited to watch that thing. I think USC-Utah will be a fun game. Excited to watch it. But as far as this weekend goes, I think everyone who needs to win a win, and it'll be chalk unless Purdue can do Purdue things.
Spoiler makers, watch out for them. Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think we have a chance of probably the most straightforward playoff reveal since it's come out, if all these teams just win, because I think you'll just leave them as it is, and you'll get Georgia, USC, Michigan, TCU, which will be a couple of interesting games just to see if can Lincoln and USC and Caleb just keep that close, or will be more like the playoff games that we've seen in the past with Oklahoma. And then how real is TCU when they play a Michigan team that's clearly very good, just housed Ohio State. But if TCU or USC lose, there's going to be drama, especially obviously USC with the 2 losses is a tough sell. But TCU loses and they're 12-1 versus Ohio State, who's 11-1. That is going to be an argument, and it's going to be contentious, and it's going to be interesting. So we'll see. All those teams, if they just win, they're fine, obviously. But there's some drama to be had there. And then if TCU and USC both lose, if they find a way to shoehorn Alabama in, I wouldn't put it past them. So we'll see how much drama we get.
What if TCU and USC both win, and then both win again? You've got the Riley Bowl for the national championship.
Oh man.
I'm sure that everyone who listens to this podcast for Oklahoma is stoked about that.
Here's the nightmare scenario for Oklahoma, and it's that if Georgia finds a way to get upset, or Michigan for that matter, any way that you end up with USC and TCU playing, TCU's the 2 and USC's the 3, because USC probably wins that game, and USC's playing in the national championship game, because just that matchup is not great for TCU. And now you're watching Lincoln and Caleb play in the Natty, and that's not what OU fans certainly want at all. So that's the nightmare scenario for Oklahoma. We'll find out what happens this weekend. Should be fun. 2 years in a row that we're kicking it on the couch for championship weekend. Not the worst thing.
If there's going to be an upset, guys, this week, I really think K-State has an opportunity to be that team that upsets TCU.
I do too.
K-State plays a certain brand of football. They can ugly it up. They've got a hell of a football coach, really knows his X's and O's, really knows game management, timeouts, all that stuff. I'm not calling it because I think TCU's having a special season, but it would not surprise me in any way, shape, or form if K-State wins that game.
But it'll just be fun to see 4 quarters of the same quarterback, hopefully, for Kansas State in that matchup. Because the first time, Martinez played like a drive, then Howard looked good, then he got knocked out. The third string comes in, turns the ball over, put Howard back in. Like, it was just who can finish this game, trying to help Kansas State. And it was a really fun game. So that's why I'm so optimistic that this will be a really, really fun watch this weekend, is because hopefully you just get Will Howard from the jump and you just get 4 quarters of that from Kansas State, which will be a really tough test for TCU. But yeah, with a much bigger game that's not college football happening at 9 a.m. on Saturday morning, I'm very happy that we are all going to be on the couch.
I was going to say, you got USC Utah Friday night, and then USA Netherlands Saturday morning, and then just full championship Saturday. So it's a big sports weekend to be kicking it. Oklahoma's not playing. I'd love to cover the Big 12 championship game, but they're not. It's out of my hands. So I'll watch the games instead, I guess, all day long. It's going to be great. So we'll look ahead to that, and we'll react to that next week, however that shakes out. Looking at the NFL real quick, Week 12 in the books. Shout out Tress Way. He was my Sooners in the NFL spotlight for the week, because just you're one of those guys you look for an opportunity to get in there, because he's been the best punter in the NFL for a while now, and he pinned the Falcons at the 5 in the game I was watching. My Falcons take a horrendous L, as they usually do. Pinned him at the 5. Washington gets a 3-and-out. They then convert that into the game-winning touchdown. The catalyst of that was Tressway's great punt to pin the Falcons way deep in their own end. And then he drew the game-winning roughing the punter call, which he really embellished. He really sold it well. So shout out Tressway, Sooners in the NFL for Week 12, as a Washington, which is just a playoff team out of nowhere, is led by their punter there, Mr. Tressway. So what else for you guys, though, that stuck out for Sooners NFL Week 12? Kind of a light week a little bit. Even though everybody played, nobody really stuck out too much.
Well, first of all, on Tressway, anybody being a Union parent, for most of the last 25 years, right? We've lived in this district for going on 27 years now, I think. To be any of you fans out there who have met Tressway, interacted with Tressway, know exactly what I'm talking about. He is the coolest, classiest, kindest, nicest guy that you'd ever want to meet. And the fact that he has made this into an NFL career where he is one of the highest paid punters in NFL history just does your heart good, because he is a good dude. It's good to see good people have good success like that and sustain it. He's got a great wife, great family, the softball player. I think her name was Bree Turang. Everybody remembers her. She was fantastic. Well, they super couple, right? The original punter marries the softball girl, right? We've seen this before.
Copycats over here with Turk.
Yeah, I know, right? What are you doing, Turk? This has been done before. It comes from another angle. No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. I don't know. Sooners in the NFL. Good to see Marquise Brown back on the field. He had 8 targets last week, 6 catches. So good to see him competing again. Not the best day for Kyler Murray. He did have 3 touchdowns total. So Cardinals stink. Cardinals are struggling, man.
Yeah, they're really bad. And it'll be interesting to see it through this offseason, because they just handed Kime, the GM, an extension, Cliff an extension, Kingsbury, the head coach, and Kyler an extension. Usually when you follow up a disappointing playoff showing with a year like this, one of those 3 is on the move, and all those guys just got extended. So that'll be really interesting to see what happens there. But I'm kind of looking at Joe Mixon, Samaje Perine in that Bengals offense. They're slated to get Jamar Chase back this week. That's kind of the expectation. So can those guys kind of make some noise and make another run here in the AFC? That'll be something to look at. But for the record, Grace Lyons does smash homers a lot more than the slapper Brianna Terang did. So it's similar but different. They get it done in different ways.
That's right. Samaje, though, real quick, 3 touchdowns last week, 3 touchdown catches last week, which is mind blowing. He catches a pass this week. I was watching the clip, and the NFL, I think it was Fox announcer goes, Samaje Perine, who caught 3 touchdown passes last week, and here he is with another reception. He turns around, and there's a Titans linebacker right on top of him. 6'3", 250 linebacker coming right at him. Samaje hits him in the face and throws him to the ground. Just a big, bulky Titans linebacker.
Yeah.
Ends up looking like a computer nerd at the AV class after 7th period. It was shocking how strong Samaje is, and he's the longer he's played in the NFL, the more opportunity he's gotten, the better he's become. And that's really cool to see, because when he first got to the NFL, he wasn't necessarily, explosive, experienced, as powerful as he is now. You look at him now, he's a different player.
Definitely. Shout out Shamaje, filling in for Mixon, who's been out for a couple of weeks. Really, really well. They haven't missed a beat, that Bengals offense. And Jalen Hurts, of course. I mean, he's just NFL MVP, arguably, right now. We could bring him up every week, but another big win for him, another big game. They beat Aaron Rodgers on Sunday Night Football. It just, every week is amazing what he's doing. It's nuts. He's MVP candidate. So it's between him and Mahomes right now. And that's insane. That's the world that we live in right now.
Speaking of running backs that catch passes, how about Ramondre Stevenson for the Patriots last week? 9 catches for 76 yards for Ramondre. I did not see that in his game. He caught some passes, but I didn't see him as a volume receiver.
Well, especially going to New England, where they've just been like, screw it. We haven't been a one-back team for 15 years, right? We'll just run it back with Ramondre. Don't worry about it.
CD went over 100 yards again. So that was a good day by him for the Cowboys.
Thanksgiving, yeah.
Thanksgiving.
100%. Ramondre, Bill Belichick loves Ramondre. I think on the broadcast on NBC on that night, they compared him. Bill Belichick compared his preparation and his approach to the game to Tom Brady and Lawrence Taylor. That was what Bill Belichick said. So Bill Belichick loves Ramondre Stevenson. Loves him. So pretty cool. Wrapping up with some basketball here on the way out. Big week for the men's hoops team. And shout out to them for, they had that season opening, just horrible loss to Sam Houston. And look, I tweeted about the 6-game win streak since the opening debacle is what I called it. And I had some fans pushing back on it being a debacle because Sam Houston State's been pretty good. Folks, they had a 98% win probability. They were up double digits with like 5 minutes left. No matter who you're playing, that's a debacle to blow it, especially at home to a G5. That was a disastrous way to start the season, but they have bounced back. They've won 6 in a row. They won the ESPN Events Invitational, which it's not like Maui or one of these other ones that's got all these ranked teams, all these blue bloods, but they beat 3 quality P5 teams that are all hoping to make the tournament themselves, especially obviously Seton Hall and Ole Miss. They went through 3 wins in 4 days. There's a lot to like about what they're doing right now. Baby steps.
Yeah, and the best thing is, and I heard Porter Moser say this again today, maybe it was yesterday actually, heard him on with Toby. He was talking about going stretches of the game, the final 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 4 minutes, whatever it was in any given game, without allowing a field goal, without allowing a point. And that's how you win games, is by shutting guys down, shutting the other team down. You might miss a 3-pointer. You might miss the front end of a 1-and-1. Doesn't matter if the other team can't score. And that's what Oklahoma's defense is doing right now.
Yeah, he talked about with us after, I was trying to remember what game it was. Some of the post games have run together with the football and basketball all at one time. But he talked about the thing that he watched over and over and over again all off season was the last 4 minutes of a ton of those games that they dropped, and how he centered in on, I know everyone talks about the offense, but for him, it was the defense that failed him. And that was the difference in the last 4 minutes. So you're seeing that as well. But I think the other really encouraging thing is that last year, 5-6 games into the year, like we would have been like, oh, that's just the offense. There's no new wrinkle in things like that. You saw Porter continue to trust a lot more of Milos Uzan and Bijan Cortez. Those guys getting back in there. Bijan's really fun to watch as far as what he does swiping balls in the passing lanes. Like he just has that knack defensively to rip steals and things like that. And then seeing more ball handlers on the floor. That's what Porter told us in the preseason. That's what he told us after game 1. He's kind of maintained that that's going to happen. They just need more time to mix and match the lineups. And I think that that's been a big boost. And what Porter will love is that last 3 minutes against Ole Miss, OU finally built a score last year. And it was the Utah State game where we saw the first little bit of time and score, where they were just launching threes left, right, and center. You finished that game with the 3-guard lineup with Sherfield, CJ Nolan, Milos Uzan. So Nolan, Uzan, young guys. They saw that game out perfectly. No quick shots, bleeding the clock down, making Ole Miss foul them. I think that's all stuff that Porter Moser was going to love to see out of his team early on this year.
Villanova on Saturday in Philly for Oklahoma. Villanova's off to a rough start. First year of the post-Jay Wright era. They're 2-5. Chance for Oklahoma to go in there, kind of make a little bit of a statement. If you go in and can whip up on Villanova, double-digit win on the road. Even though this Villanova team's not that good, they're still Villanova. So a chance for some confidence there. First true road game for Oklahoma on Saturday. So we'll see how they shake out. We'll talk to Porter Moser tomorrow about that and looking ahead. So look out for that on AllSooners.com tomorrow afternoon. As far as women, weird scheduling quirk. They haven't actually played since our last show. They played last Tuesday, and they played tonight, Wednesday night, against Northwestern State. Anything you guys want to add? They haven't played since our last show, but acknowledging that they're back at home tonight against Northwestern State. Some time to kind of try to get their footing for some big games here coming up before Big 12 play starts.
Have to recoup from that trip to Utah, right? That back-to-back at Utah. She gave them time. Jenny gave them time to be able to do that. So
they played two games since then.
They have?
They've had a weird. Yeah, they played UT Arlington and beat them, and they played Arkansas State.
I totally forgot that. I thought their most recent game was the Utah trip.
They played 4 games in 7 or 8 days. Now they haven't played in over a week. It's kind of a funky schedule.
Yeah, that's the Thanksgiving schedule. What's it going to be at Christmas, I wonder?
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. And look, that's something, too, that you look at. Last year, winning a Big 12 tournament game for the first time in a hot minute meant that, you had to play it back-to-back. It's not something they're used to. So I'm sure that Ginny Bronchek's happy that early on in the season they kind of got that experience, got all of that fatigue into their legs and said, okay, now you have to go out there and perform, but also were able to build in a nice little break so it's not costing them a ton of non-conference games just to get that experience.
At home for a while, after they played Northwestern State tonight at home, like we said, and they play Ole Miss at home on Sunday, Robert Morris at home the following Sunday, and then Southern at home the following Sunday after that. So 3 straight Sundays at home. So they don't go back on the road again until almost near Christmas. So they have a lot of time to be at home and stockpile some wins here coming up over the next several weeks. All right, that's it for us. We'll head on out of here. Keep up with AllSooners.com for all the latest portal news and everything else, opt-outs on the bowl game and all that kind of stuff in the next week ahead. Like we said, we'll be back next Wednesday recapping the weekend that was in college football and, of course, basketball action, all that good stuff, and reacting to whatever Oklahoma has in their bowl. We'll know by next Wednesday, finally, where Oklahoma's going to be playing their bowl game. So we'll react to all that. We'll break it all down for you next Wednesday. You can catch that show on iTunes, Spotify, Google, iHeart, wherever you get your podcast. If you have an Amazon-enabled device, just say, Alexa, play the AllSooners Podcast. It's also posted on our website, AllSooners.com. Click on the playlist on your phone, your tablet, or your computer. And, of course, you can watch the shows as well on Who's YouTube page, John Hoover Media. That's it. We'll be back next Wednesday for Ryan Chapman and John Hoover. I'm Josh Callaway. We'll catch you guys next time.